Blink Twice is an R-rated psychological thriller directed by Zoe Kravitz. This is her debut, and she also co-wrote the script for this movie. I'm gonna have to be a bit vague with the plot details here as to not spoil it. Basically, we're following Naomi Ackie as Frida, a young woman who becomes entranced by this big tech billionaire played by Channing Tatum. They meet during an event that she's bartending for, and before you know it, she gets invited to spend some time at his private island along with another group of young women. And strange things start happening, and this is where this movie reminded me instantly of a couple of other films. It's almost like if you took Get Out, Don't Worry Darling, and Midsommar and scrambled them together in a blender. I wish I meant that as a compliment, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that the first half of this movie, the first 45 minutes or so, did feel very familiar. The beats were all there from these other films. Strange things happen in such a slow-paced manner that I felt that the film was dragging a bit. And I think the problem is that despite the fact that this movie has a pretty decent screenplay, I wish they would have developed the characters a little bit more before they're thrown into this situation on the island, because Frida as a character, I feel like I didn't learn too much about her before she travels there, so we're just kind of following a nameless nobody. I think Naomi Ackie does a good job with the performance, but I wasn't feeling much from the character side until we delve into her history a bit later on in the film. Moving back into talking about the slow pace, it does just get a bit repetitive in that the women sit around, they smoke joints, they drink, and they dance around, and then it's the next day and the next day. And the movie could have probably moved through that segment a little bit faster because it just leaves the movie feeling very empty. Like, I really had no idea what direction it was going in until the end, which sounds like a good thing, but it was more in a, like, I'm bored kind of sense. Thankfully, the third act, which is going to be virtually impossible to talk about without spoiling, brought me back in. It was thrilling, it was disturbing, weirdly comedic at times too, and that tone is definitely not going to work for people because in and of itself there is some subject matter in here that is going to be controversial, but to add some humor into the mix as well is definitely not going to sit right with some people, and normally it wouldn't for me either, but I was weirdly charmed by how chaotic and wild this movie got. And it wasn't until the third act that I felt some of the themes of this movie actually start to rear their head. The tech billionaire in this, played by Channing Tatum, he's been kind of canceled for some sort of inappropriate behavior that's not disclosed to us. So the movie does kind of play with the ideas of forgiveness and forgetting the past and getting over things in your past. It doesn't fully stick the landing, and I think it lacks the nuance of something like Get Out, but it is very intense and thought-provoking once it finally gets to that point where it starts to reveal what's actually going on. Some people are going to predict it really fast. I honestly had no clue really until they started pulling back some layers. It was cool to see Channing Tatum do something a bit different than he normally does too. I don't think I've ever seen him play a role like this. Once again, I feel a bit of lack of depth for his character, at least in the first half of the film. I could have done with a little more detail in terms of his motive for what he's doing on this island without spoiling things. Great supporting cast though. Adria Arjona, Christian Slater, Simon Rex, Gina Davis. Even though most of their characters aren't given much to do until later on in the film, I thought they did a great job with the material they were given. So overall, this is a really solid debut from Zoe Kravitz. I'm glad that she went bold with it and didn't make some sort of safe, predictable movie. And that's kind of what I thought it was going to be in the first half when I was going through the motions that pretty much every other film in this genre has done in the past. It's well shot, it's well acted, it's a slow burn that was a bit too slow in my opinion, but when it does finally get to that point where it takes off, it had me thoroughly entertained. I'm giving Blink Twice 3 stars. If you're a big fan of psychological thrillers, this is definitely one for you to go and see in theaters. But if you're not a huge fan and you're just mildly intrigued, I would just wait and stream this one. It's not like a must-see or anything like that. So those are my thoughts on Blink Twice, guys. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think of it. I am in the process of a move right now, which is why I haven't been super active on the channel, so things might be a little rocky for the next couple of weeks, but I plan to get back into my usual routine before long. Make sure you hit that like button before you head out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.